The bustling noise of a medieval marketplace echoes through a massive stone archway. Carts pulled by horses rattle over the cobblestones, while herdsmen guide sheep through the busy thoroughfare. Townspeople and cloaked figures move past armed guards stationed at the gate. A young man with bright blonde hair and striking blue eyes walks through the entrance, looking around at his new surroundings with a quiet confidence. Blonde youth, to himself, smiling lightly, Solan City, I'm finally here. As he approaches the stone walls, he catches the eye of a stern, armored guard leaning against the masonry. The youth reaches into his pocket and looks down at a polished blue and gold pocket watch emblazoned with a leaf crest. His mind wanders to the harsh reality of how he arrived here. Blonde youth, internal monologue. The original owner of this body was beaten to death when he was a thief. His body was immediately taken over by me, who crossed over to this world. I didn't expect the original owner to be the bastard of the great Orlando family. I ran to this place for many reasons. He walks past the guard, stepping fully out of the shadows of the gateway and into the open city. Light, blonde youth, internal monologue, and it will be the starting point of my new life. The mightiest lord system. Inside the grand hall of the city's ruler, a long red carpet stretches down a polished marble floor toward an elevated throne. Overhead, a massive golden chandelier casts a warm glow across the room. The blonde youth sits quietly at a long wooden table near the entrance, looking toward the far end of the hall. Seated heavily upon the ornate, golden throne is Solan, the imposing lord of Solan City. He holds a piece of parchment, his expression grim. Lord Solan, I have very bad news for you. Your father, Calvin Orlando, died last week. The youth processes the news silently, keeping his face entirely unreadable. Solan leans forward, his dark fur mantle shifting over his shoulders as his gaze sharpens. Lord Solan, the new successor of the Orlando family is your half-brother, Wenger Orlando. He has long regarded you as a thorn in his side. The youth narrows his eyes slightly, sizing up the situation. Illegitimate son of Calvin, so what do you want to say? Solan's eyes narrow into a fierce, cold glare, his brow furrowing with absolute authority. He give up the name of Orlando. The heavy tension hangs in the air for a moment. Solan's stern expression softens just a fraction, replaced by the calculating look of a politician settling a deal. Lord Solan, if you agree, Wenger is willing to give you 500 gold coins for you to create your own territory. An attendant steps forward, dressed in fine light blue robes. He carries a heavy, dark wooden chest with iron trimmings. With a polite nod, the attendant opens the lid, revealing a gleaming treasure trove packed to the brim with bright, shining gold coins. The blonde youth reaches out, picking up a single gold coin and turning it over in his fingers, weighing both the money and his entire future in his hands.
A dimly lit, stone-walled throne room. A single torch burns on the wall, casting shadows across the face of the Lord Governor, who stares down at his guest with heavy eyes. Lord Governor sighs, sounding vindicated. Seems like we've reached an agreement. Across from him, Orlando sits slumped deeply into a wooden chair, his arms crossed behind his head. In a completely relaxed, disrespectful posture. He closes his eyes and speaks with an airy, romanticized tone. Reference Orlando. The name, Orlando, evokes the idea of brilliance and glory. It's the most precious thing my father left me. The Lord Governor leans forward, his brow furrowing as he glares at the arrogant young man. Lord Governor, you don't agree? Orlando snaps his eyes open. A sharp, greedy grin spreads across his face. He flashes a single gold coin between his fingers, his blue eyes gleaming with ambition. Orlando, he has to give me more money. The Lord Governor's eyes widen in sheer shock and irritation. He bolts upright slightly, taken aback by the audacity. Lord Governor recovering his composure, the governor sits back on his grand wooden throne, raising a single finger to lay down the hard conditions of the counteroffer. 1,000 gold coins and interest-free loans. But you have to buy goods from my city. Orlando doesn't hesitate. With a swift flick of his wrist, he tosses the gold coin into the air. It spins rapidly through the light before he catches it with a smug, self-assured Orlando deal. The atmosphere shifts from a tense financial negotiation to a strategic one. Orlando glances sideways at the governor and his advisor, bringing up his true objective. Orlando, I heard there was a group of barbarian Highlander slaves in the Colosseum. The Lord Governor looks down from his throne, reviewing a piece of parchment in his hands. He grins slightly, finding their tactic clever, yet highly dangerous. Using slave soldiers to form an army. That's a smart idea. But the governor places a hand to his chin, leaning forward to look Orlando dead in the eyes, his expression turning deadly serious. Lord Governor, are you sure you want to buy a group of unruly barbarians with your 1,000 gold coins? I have to, however, remind you that those barbarians are famous for their bravery, as well as their rebelliousness, so don't expect them to be obedient. Orlando merely smiles, his eyes half closed with absolute certainty as he delivers his final line. I am doing for exactly that reason. 20 gold coins for each person. That'll be 50 people. Take him to the Colosseum. A young, blonde protagonist stands by a long table draped in red fabric, confidently placing his hand on a small chest. The Lord's advisor stands opposite him, looking slightly surprised. Blonde protagonist. Thoughtful, smug, great. The first step of my plan is a success. Advisor, come. I'll take you to the studded stars Colosseum. A tight, dramatic close-up of the mustache-twirling Lord. His narrowed red eyes track the departing young man. Lord, narrowing his eyes. This boy is not ordinary. A horse-drawn wooden carriage passes through a bustling, medieval town square. In the distance, the stone arches of a massive Colosseum loom against the mountains. Blonde protagonist, people have been wandering the foreign world for 10 years, and sometimes miss their happy life before the young protagonist sits comfortably on a plush red velvet couch. Looking out the barred window, the advisor sits opposite him, listening intently. Advisor. Sir, what song are you humming? Close up on the young man's face. A knowing, slightly bittersweet smirk plays on his lips as he gazes outside. Blonde protagonist, it's nothing. Just a song from my hometown. The tone shifts to a grim memory. The protagonist looks back on his rough beginnings, sitting bruised and battered among trash and wooden crates. Blonde protagonist, after the original owner was beaten to death, I took over his body. The young man stares wide-eyed at a glowing sci-fi blue holographic UI interface floating directly above his open palm. Blonde protagonist. And got the Lord system. Then day after day, I learned martial arts and combat skills. The protagonist holding a practice sword, smiling cheerfully. A towering, gleaming suit of knightly armor standing in a grand hall. Blonde. Protagonist, originally, I wanted to take the position of knight. But who would have thought that? Old Calvin was crazy enough to give the name Orlando, which evokes the idea of brilliance and glory. The protagonist looks offside, breaking a nervous sweat. Bottom panel. The protagonist runs frantically out of a massive stone castle gate, looking panicked as he flees toward freedom. Blonde protagonist, to me, a bastard who lived on the streets. Fortunately, I got the territorial expansion permit, so I escaped here. Otherwise, I would have been destroyed by those people from Orland.